Hello guys, and a very warm welcome to this first session on using SAS Enterprise Guide. So the main objective of this session is just to basically taking you through the layout and how SAS Enterprise Guide is organized so that you can become familiar with the tool. Okay, so once you once you open SAS Enterprise Guide, you've got this main section there, which is called the process flow. This is basically the place where we can structure our projects, whether it be SAS codes, which is that icon there that you see there for program, or SAS datasets, or operations on those datasets. That will all be stored under your process flow. You can then run programs, you can export data, schedule tasks, look at your project logs or some of the properties of your project. You can set those there. Yeah, quite a useful sort of feature of the tool, really. Then you've got a file utility, which is pretty much standard, or has what you'd expect from a file utility, where you can save your projects, where you can input your data, where you can export or send it to other recipients. You then have an edit menu, where you can just edit your project. You've then got a view where you can define the workspace layout, and what have you. You then have a task menu where you basically can scroll through and select different tasks. So you can say open your project or open your Enterprise Guide project, and by using these tasks you can describe your data, you can plot your data, you can do multivariate analysis on that data, really a raft of things that you can carry out when it comes to analyzing your data. You then have a tools menu where you can define styles, look for add-ins, store processes, and then a help menu, which is quite helpful. The help is very well structured. I do suggest that you guys spend some time navigating that help functionality. Okay, then if we leave this sort of main area onto the left to what's called the project tree, there you've got your basically the structure of your project with its programs. You can dock it to the left or to the right if you prefer, or to the top. I've got it docked to the left of my project. If you then go down to the task list, you've got you can sort tasks by name or by category, for example. Here it's just really a very extensive list, an enlarged list when compared to the task menu. And there you can see you've got lots of different options to choose from. You then can go through your folders, through your server list. But yeah, for the time being, we'll leave it under the task list, because that's what we most often use. Okay, so this is really just a very quick overview of the layout and and the structure of SAS Enterprise Guide. Now, if we go to that icon there, the sort of the program or the codes icon, if we hit run via F8 or just hitting the run button, you'll see that the icon under your project tree that refers to this program will go green. This is just saying that SAS is running the program and executing the instructions there. Again, this is just reading a retail visits dataset, so some of these statements will be familiar to you. And then you get your output data. Okay, so one with the output data that comes out of this data step. Let's just go through it again. You can inspect the result basically. In terms of checking that all went well, I also suggest you go through the log file where you can see that, hey, the 60,000 records were read from this file, and that all went well. And then you can spend some time with your output data. So you've got a product ID variable, telling you the type of variable, the length. Same thing for the other variables, such as the quantity or the customer ID. So this is really a helpful feature to inspect your your data or your resulting data of, say, a SAS code. You can also scroll down. Be mindful that if you're working with very large data sets, this might slow it down, or it might take a bit of time, so be wary of that. That said, it's something that you probably want to explore, especially when you're starting off, because it really enables you to get a feel for the type of manipulations that you're carrying out and for the type of results that you're getting. Okay. So this is so it's just a quick recap. You get your output data. You can inspect it. You can see where it comes from under your process flow. So there you go. The retails visits dataset comes from that program. Then probably what will happen after this is that once you've got your data imported, you probably want to carry out some tasks on that data. So you see, just a point note that it's under the work library, so it's not a permanent SAS dataset, so you lose it once you close Enterprise Guide. Okay, so it's important that you bear in mind the distinction between permanent and work libraries. Okay, now let's go to this task list, which is basically telling us, hey, what types of tasks can we carry out with our data. So let's say we want to filter out some of our data by a variable. So in this case, let's say you've got the store ID here, which was, if you recall, the description of this data set. It basically contains two different values, relating to two different stores. So store 100 and store 200. Okay, and then we have a customer ID variable. Okay, and let's suppose that we want to get how much each customer for a given store, say store 100, store 200, spent during that day. We know we've gone through it, it's all relates to the same day, so no point in keeping the day variable. Okay, so in terms of moving forward, if we go to our task list, we can use that section to filter and sort our data, for example. And once you hit filter and sort, basically a wizard comes up. Okay, you need to have your data set selected, but a wizard comes up, and that wizard will sort of guide you through the manipulations that you want to do. So if you go for your variables, you see that you've got their set of variables available. If you just hit control and then pick those, you can select all those and just move them to the right hand side. We don't want to pick date visit because we only have one day, so we'll know all the transactions relate to the same day. You can get a header there or an update and just see what it looks like once that filtering gets done. And you can basically go to filter and pick the store ID variable and say that you want the observations where the store ID equals 100. So you can write down that value 100. You can just hit that icon there, and it gives you a list of the different possibilities. Okay, so there you go. So that's one of the filters. If you wanted other filters, you could add those, but let's just keep it simple. So let's hit OK. So once you hit OK, basically, you'll see that the icon for the filter and sort task comes up. It's green. It's telling you that SAS is processing your data and carrying out your task. Okay, so again, similar modus operandi. So you get the output data, except that this time, if you were to inspect this output data, you see that you get less rows. And this is basically to do with the fact that SAS filtered out the observations that had store ID equals 100 and outputted those. Okay, so here you go. Your input data has a lot more observations than your output data. SAS also generates the code, or Enterprise Guide, also generates the code that you used to do this, and you can also inspect the log to make sure they all went well. So you can see that just over 27,000 observations were read from the input data. Okay, and all these observations had store ID equals 100. So once you've got that, you've got your output data, which is called filter for retail visits. Okay, so you filtered your input data set, which is called retail visits, and then you got an output data set via an enterprise guide task. Now, what we also wanted to do was to understand and calculate some summary statistics at a customer level for each customer, in this case the sum. So, if we pick the summary statistics task, the wizard will come up, and again, it will guide you through the task at hand. So you just need to pick which variables you want to use as the as the variables to analyze, and variables to group by, i.e. at which level you want to calculate your variables. So we want to sum the spend amount, and we want to group it by customer ID, because we want to do this for each customer. We can then sort that by descending, so that we get the customers that spend the most first, and then we can just go to the statistics section and just pick different statistics. We don't want the standard deviation, so we can just unpick that. We don't want the minimum or the maximum, or even the number of observations for each customer. So we just want, or even the mean, so we'll just take this out and leave the sum, which is really what we want. We then don't want any percentile, so we'll leave that. You could also pick some additional stats, some plots, define your titles and what have you, but we won't go into an awful lot of detail there. So it's just really to give you a flavor for using the wizard to carry out some summary stats. We want to save the statistics to a data set, so click that, and then just hit run. And basically, once you do that, you see that the summary statistics wizard gets highlighted. And it'll basically be calculating those. Okay, so the time it takes to calculate depends on how big your data set is and how complex the task at hand is, and also if you're connecting to a remote server, as is my case, a Unix server, your connection and then your server specifics basically. But this is really showing you the way the process flow works and how you can use it to really get a good feel for the types of different manipulations that you're carrying out during your project. Okay, so once that's done, you get the results. So here you go, a results tab, which is basically telling you for each customer ID how much they spend. So the sum of that variable, that spend amount variable, huge output. You can go through it all. The main point is that you understand that it's there, and you also get your output data set where it's telling you, hey, customer ID such and such spent, spend amount, sum value. The underscore type underscore and the underscore frac underscore variables, those are automatic variables that get generated, so just ignore those for the time being. You also get a SAS report, which is basically with the summary statistics there. And if you go back to your output data, you'll see that now you've got, for each customer ID, you've got a row with the value that they spent. Okay, which is basically what you were looking for. So you were looking to filter out for a given store and then calculate the sum of each customer's spend amount variable, so that you could get the total spend that they carried out in the store. Okay, so that's basically it. You could go through other tasks such as graphing now your data. You could perhaps run some analysis, some statistical analysis such as ANOVA. You could do a raft of things. You could store this process. We won't go into an awful lot of detail. Really, the key thing is that you understand that you can output results to, say, different types of formats. You can do different things with this process flow that you've just defined. Okay, so yeah, guys. So that's pretty much it. It was just this first session to give you an overview and a feel for what it's like to work with Enterprise Guide, and I'll be seeing you during our next